This is the Try Swim Coach podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TrySwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
Welcome to Try Swim Coach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 76. And in just a minute, I have an interview coming up with Ron Saetermoe, who is the number one ranked U.S. triathlete in the 55 to 59 age group. So don't miss that. We have a lot of cool things to chat about. And a reminder, if you like this show and you want to show us some support, please give us a rating and review in iTunes. You can just go to iTunes, open up iTunes, and type in Try Swim Coach podcast, and then there's a section to put in your rating. Hopefully it's a 5-star rating, and then your review. That would really help us out. And there is an issue with iTunes right now. I have the artwork is not showing up, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm going to try working with Apple on that and make sure that we get the artwork back up there. It was there and then it disappeared. But the podcast is still up and running. This year we're planning on doing a couple of podcasts every month, and we're going to have a combination of Chris and I chatting about relevant topics to triathlon and swimming. And then we're going to have guests on the show that are relevant to what you guys are doing. And then another thing that I wanted to mention is we're doing a focus each month with our Try Swim Pro group. So what we're doing is we have a special private closed group on Facebook. We're going to make every month a focus on something that's related to triathlon and swimming performance. So this month, for example, is core. And then next month, I think we're going to hit on kicking. And then the following month, I think we're going to hit on the high elbow pull. So we'll go through a lot of things with that. And that way you get a chance to work with us, the coaches, and then also kind of be a part of a team. So if you're interested in that and you want to join Try Swim Pro, you can just go to tryswimpro.com, and you can also order a DVD and join us at tryswimcoach.com. So it'd be great to see you in there. And as for me, I'm nursing a shoulder injury. I don't know how I did it, but apparently taking time off from swimming was a bad idea, because when I got back in the pool, my problematic shoulder tightened up and it's been getting worse. So I am going to physical therapy now again. And hopefully this will not take too long, because I hate being out of the pool. It's no fun. And we're also going to be doing a t-shirt. So I've got some stuff on our Facebook page on that. It's just facebook.com/tryswimcoach. And that'll be ready soon. I think we'll put it in the store, probably give away some shirts. And especially if you are a member, we're going to have some stuff where you can get a t-shirt. And so we're trying to make the t-shirt as cool as possible so that people will actually wear it. I think that's a good idea. So anyway, without further ado, here's my interview with Ron Saetermoe. Have a great week of training and go out there and laugh at the water, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Well, I'm really excited to have my friend and top-ranked triathlete Ron Saetermoe on the show today. Ron has been doing triathlon since 1983 and most recently did the Ironman Arizona and finished at an amazing 10 hours, 23 minutes and finished second in his age group. And his website is at triathlon.com. Ron, welcome to Try Swim Coach.
Thank you. Wow, is my time that fast? That's pretty for an old guy.
Yeah, I was blown away. You finished second in Ironman Arizona, right?
I did, behind the incomparable Paul Bakerman, who lives in that area and trains in that area. And as good as 10:23 sounds, he kicked my butt by almost an amazing 30 minutes. So even though I'm a fairly highly ranked triathlete, there's always somebody out there that's better than you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's tough. But that blows me away. The guy went 30 minutes faster, but he's in his home territory, so he's got that advantage. So maybe next time in a neutral territory, you can get him.
I did beat him in Kona. I have to say that.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Okay. There you go.
I didn't beat him by 30 minutes, but I beat him in Kona in October last year.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's start. I wanted to, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, and you've been doing this for a long time, and how you got started and, what you're doing these days.
Well, you're right about 1983. That's when I started. And probably a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast are amazed by that, because they weren't even born before. I got into the sport fairly early. I was kind of encouraged by a friend of mine. I happened to be living in Omaha, Nebraska at the time. And I was swimming, biking, and running a little bit. And he encouraged me to sign up for this one that was over the border in Iowa. And I did. I don't even know how I placed in that one, but I enjoyed it. And California shortly after that. And of course, the culture here in Southern California in triathlon was huge. So I got involved in the Orange County Triathlon as on a relay team. I was a pretty good swimmer and did the swim leg for a couple of years. And then I took it on myself and, hey, I'm enjoying the sport. So that's really when it got started.
Yeah, that's great. So you actually came from somewhat of a swimming background?
Well, I would say somewhat. You were an All-American at one time. I only made it through my junior year in high school in organized swimming.
Okay.
I got pretty burned out on it. I started swimming competitively when I was 7 and then swam until I was 17. And I was on 2 different swim teams and my heart was never in. I wasn't really competitive. It was more of a matter of, my dad wanted me to compete in sports and I was above average in it. So that's what I did,
Yeah.
Competitive juices really never kicked in until about 2007. So it's never too late.
Wow. That's amazing. So the last couple of years, maybe 2-3 years, you've really stepped it up, and since I've known you, I think that it's been just recently that you really just started to kick some butt. What has been the key to all your success lately?
I don't think you can narrow it down to one thing. I think there's a number of factors. One of the factors, the first thing for me is, I plan out my year. I've already got my year planned out for 2014. I sit down towards the end of the year, October, November, like I did this last year, and kind of map out my year. What do I want to do? And as you know, a lot of the Ironman and half Ironman races, and actually some of the shorter distance ones too, sell out early. So you really need to have that forward planning. In addition to picking your races, which could be a whole nother subject, but in addition to picking them, is to really develop a training plan. And I've really been fortunate to work with some of the best coaches in the world, including Dave Scott and Mark Allen and you. And, there's just a whole bunch of people out there, but I'm just developing my own training plans these days and they're very elaborate and I stick to them. And there's got to be a real good reason for me to miss or adjust a workout.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So what does a training week look like for you? And are you able to balance it out with work or how does that work?
Yeah, well, I as you know, I work as little as possible. So that I'm working on that 4-hour work week thing that you turned me on to. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it.
Right on.
Yeah. I break my season up into 4 areas, or my year, I should say, not just my season, but I'm sort of in the adaptation mode right now, which means that I don't have any structured training. I just try to do something every day. I try to swim, bike, run. I did an amazing 4 days of hiking with my girlfriend up in Zion a couple of weeks ago. Just trail running. I'm just trying to mix it up at this point of the year. I do work with a strength and conditioning coach, and my instructions to him in the off season, like during this adaptation phase, is to make me a stronger cyclist. So we're on a 6-week mission just to absolutely, kick my butt. That's kind of the adaptation phase. The base training phase is when I really get down to a structured plan for my week. And that structure doesn't change through the base period and the build period and the race period. It's always laid out the same. So I know exactly what my workouts are going to be Monday through Sunday. And this will seem like a lot for most folks, but I actually have 13 different training sessions during the base build and race phase of my weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the hours I'm trying to think offhand. I think the minimum amount of hours that I'll work out in any given week is 12. And I work my way up to my biggest week during the race phase will be 24 hours in 1 week.
Wow. Yeah, that's full time. Right.
Well, it's a part-time job and it's a passion. So, it's fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did Ironman Kona this past year and you had a great race. Can you kind of talk us through that? Like, how did that go swimming, like all the way from the start?
Yeah, that was my second time at Kona. And I'll tell you, it's an absolute privilege to get there. There are hundreds of thousands of triathletes around the world that are trying to get there. And once you get there and you're one of the 2,000 people fortunate enough to be there, it's magic. It really is. And the really cool thing for me, first time I did it was in 2010, and last year was the second time. But the thing that really made it special for me last year was that one of the athletes that I coach, Aya Wazlewski, qualified as well. So
cool.
so great to see somebody that I coach, make it there as well. So anyway, it was a very special event. But yeah, it is an amazing, what I do is I try to get in the water fairly early before the swim. And this year I lined up way to the left because if you've ever witnessed or experienced an Ironman's mass start, it's just complete mayhem, and you're going to get beat up. And it's not intentional, of course, but you're going to get beat up. And when I did it in 2010, my goggles got knocked off 3 times. So I thought, I'm going to stay out of that mayhem. I'm going to swim a little bit longer, but I'm going to do it. I had a fairly good swim. I think I was, around 109. Again, I don't have these stats in front of me, and I'm not very good at remembering them, so forgive me there. But, I just tried to get into a comfortable pace, and you can draft to some degree, but there's so many people, it's difficult to do that. But the thing that I've been able to do is enjoy the day. So, the water's so clear, and you're swimming along, and you're looking at the fish and the turtles and stuff. So I was really able to enjoy the swim, even though it wasn't particularly fast.
Sure.
And I have sacrificed my swim times for bettering my cycling times, so I don't swim as much as I used to, but my cycling has improved quite a bit. So when I got on the bike, I really pretty much hammered it and went about as hard as I could. And I forget exactly what my time was, but this year the winds were particularly kind to us. We actually had the wind at our backs going out the Queen K towards Hawi, and the crosswinds weren't that bad going up and back from Hawi. So you were really able to hammer. And my philosophy on racing, and I know there's a lot of people that don't understand or agree with this, but it's okay because it works for me, is I race according to my heart rate. So as soon as I get on my bike, I try to get my heart rate to settle. It always starts out a little bit high because you're moving from a horizontal position to a vertical position. And when you start hammering on the bike, the adrenaline's flowing and your heart rate goes sky high. But I try to get it to settle to about 150. And that's high for a lot of people, but my heart rate runs high. My maximum heart rate's actually about 203. So 150 for me is only about 75% effort.
Yeah.
So I try to lead it right at 150, and I do that all day. So whether I'm going uphill or downhill or flats or into the wind, I try to keep it right there at 150 and managed to have a pretty good bike split. I was happy with it.
Now, the heart rate, keeping your heart rate at 150, is that based on anything? Like, is that one of the formulas, like the Mark Allen kind of thing, or is that something else?
Yeah, it's sort of, Mark Allen's whole philosophy is heart rate based, his training and so on. And he would, subscribe a heart rate to you for racing as well. So it is partially based on that. I think Mark sorry, Dave, but I think Mark was actually the best triathlete of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dave was, really the guy that put triathlon on the map and really taught us all, how to race and train. But I think Mark was the best. But the problem that I have with Mark's training is that it keeps you at such a low heart rate all year long until you get into the final race phase. But and my heart rate never really fell into that sort of plan. So when I'm racing in 150, I'm sure that's probably 15 beats higher than what Mark would prescribe to me.
Yeah. Okay.
So, then we get to the run, and my philosophy doesn't change. I try to keep my heart rate right at 150, and that's what I did right up until mile 18. I was just my perfect race all day up until mile 18. And in about mile 18, you're down into the energy lab, and the day's been really long, and it's really hot and humid, and you're really tired.
Yep.
That's when the wheels started to come off a little bit. And I think I got a little bit behind in my nutrition. I'm pretty good with my nutrition on the bike, but I got a little bit behind on the run. So I was slowing down. So those last 8 miles were, slower than what I would have liked. But, even if I'd had my perfect race, I wouldn't have cracked the top 10. I mean, these are the best guys in the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a great day.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And so now, how long does it take you to recover from a race like that? Like in terms of just being able to go out and do a little jog or something?
It's interesting because you'll see, you'll go to Kona and you'll, just beating yourself up really bad on Saturday. But Sunday, you'll see people out there swimming, biking, and running.
Yeah.
And never understood that, but they're out there doing it. So in terms of, recovery after the race, I'm swimming almost immediately. I think it's a great way to recover. Within a couple of days, I'm either doing a very easy ride on the road, and I mean really easy, or I'm doing a recovery stint on my CompuTrainer, which I love.
Yeah.
But I'm not running for at least 2 weeks. And not to say that I'm recovered after 2 weeks, because you're not. I can tell you, because I've done Ironmans back to back a couple of times now. And I can tell you that for me anyway, I'm not fully recovered until probably after about a month.
Yeah. Do you have any tips on avoiding injuries?
Well, that's huge. As you know, I'm an older guy. I'm actually racing as a 59-year-old this calendar year. And I've surrounded myself with a great network of people. If you don't mind, I'd like to do a couple of little plugs here, because
absolutely.
These are people that really, that keep me healthy. I think massage is crucial.
Yeah.
And the more massages you can get, the better. It's kind of expensive. So, if you can only go once a month, then go once a month. But if you can go once a week or even twice a week, that's the way to go. So Carolyn over at Massage Envy in Aliso Viejo is the one that I usually go to. But Gabor Lingauer, the muscle doctor in Mission Viejo, he's the guy that I use when I've got some real issues or after a big important race. My doctor, Dr. Sam Sunshine, he's up in Foothill Ranch. Sam's the guy that really helped me get back into running again when I had totally messed up my Achilles. My strength and conditioning coach, critical, seeing him twice a week now. Roy Corey, he works out of Newport Beach. He's helped me with my strength, my flexibility, and just, really understands the body. But then, beyond that, I've got people, like you that I used to help me with my form and further my conditioning. Another guy that I just saw recently was a guy by the name of John Loftus. It's an elite runner. The guy did I think last year at the Boston Marathon, he did a 2:42. So I used my entire network. Oh, and don't let me forget Scott Neubauer. Scott Neubauer is my physical therapist, and he works out of Lake Forest. Sorry, Scott. But those are the people that I use to keep me healthy and on track. And I swear, if it wasn't, for getting all these tips for, strength and conditioning and form and, recovery, I wouldn't be half the athlete that I am, really.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think all that is so important to have a kind of your own team that you can refer to, because there's so many little things that can go wrong. And I know I've experienced a lot of them. So that's awesome. Okay. So now Ironman Arizona, now what were some of the differences there as opposed to the Hawaii race?
Well, Arizona was 5 weeks after Kona. So, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that I think it takes me about 4 weeks to recover. So, I really was only, barely recovered after Kona before I did Ironman Arizona. And it's kind of tricky because, if you lay off too long, at least I do, I lose my conditioning fairly quickly. So it's a fine balance between, overtraining and undertraining, particularly when you're trying to qualify for Kona. But so, yeah, I went into that race and I felt like I had, done the proper amount of training between the two races, but my philosophy didn't change. I mean, it was just about going out hard but comfortable on the swim, and I did a 105 swim there. Of course, that's a wetsuit swim, so it's going to be faster than Kona anyway. But I did a 5 there and felt good. And actually, Bakerman only beat me by 1 second on the swim, but he beat me. But my philosophy on the bike and the run were exactly the same. It was to hold my heart rate right at 150, and I got out on the bike and just crushed it and got out onto the run and got into a really nice groove. And I have to give a little shout out to my friend Mark Arenall, who went along with me, and he was my Sherpa. This is the second time he's done that for me there. He's actually been my Sherpa a couple of times at Kona as well. Great guy and great athlete. So I'm running along, and I know Bakerman's ahead of me, but I don't know if anybody else is until I see Mark. For the second time, I saw him I guess it was about mile 18, And I was still running strong. I was running with this other guy that actually turned out to be a friend of a friend. I met him afterwards. Great guy, Robert. And at about mile 18, I catch up with Mark and say, okay, where am I at? And he goes, well, you're about 20 minutes behind Bakerman, and the guy who's behind you, Bob, his name escapes me. I'm sorry, Bob, but he's actually a friend of a friend as well. He's about 30 minutes behind you. So it's like, okay, well, there's no him catching Bakerman.
Yeah.
And there's way Bob's going to catch me. So that's when I kind of pulled back and didn't go quite as hard. But I guess for about the last 8 miles, my heart rate probably settled down to about 135 or 140. And, I ended up with about I guess it's a 3:59 marathon, which is pretty average for me. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was my Arizona.
Cool. And then, so that's when I heard that you got ranked, what was it, 4th or 5th in the world for your age group?
Yeah, the 2013, if you go to Ironman.com, up at the top of the page, I think it says something like rankings. And if you look at the Ironman age group rankings, you'll see that I'm 5th in the world in the 55 to 59 age group and number 1 in the country. It's a great accomplishment. And I'm very proud of it. But as I told my friend Steve Block, because he was looking at him and said, wow, dude, you're 5th in the world and 1st in the country. It's like, yeah, but I'll tell you, Steve, to be perfectly honest with you, I'd rather have 5th at Kona than I would, 5th in the world rankings, because the world national rankings are based on, you're going to rank higher if you race more. They take basically your 3 best scores from Ironman and half Ironman races, and they add those 3 scores together, and that's how they rank you. So, some of the top guys in the world only raced 1 or 2 races, and therefore they wouldn't score as high as I did. So
yeah,
I'm being a little self-effacing here. I'm very glad with those results. I'm very proud of it. I worked very hard to get there, but you just have to understand what the rankings are about. And like I said, I'd much rather take 5th at Kona than 5th in the world in those rankings.
Sure. We'll still bill you as the number 1 ranked in the world for this podcast. So
That's good.
Yeah. So, okay. So what are your plans and goals for this year, for 2014?
As you know, my focus is really Ironman, but I love doing any kind of racing, really. So for me, what works really well this time of year in this adaptation phase, kind of mix things up. One of my favorite types of racing is the half marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that really helps me improve my speed and my endurance. So I'm looking at my race schedule now, and my half marathons, I actually start tomorrow. I've got one, the Southern California half marathon in Irvine. Next week, I've got the Carlsbad half marathon. I normally do the Surf City half marathon, but this year I'm doing the full marathon because I'm going to try to qualify for Boston. And then another one of my absolute favorite races, which is so great. It's very hilly, very hard, but great race. The San Diego half marathon, which is down in Rancho Santa Fe, California. That's on February 9th. So that's how I start my season off. And from there, I'll do some other races and have some fun. I just got an email from a friend of mine that we're going to do the Breathless Agony Century in May. I'm going to do the Olympic Desert Triathlon in March. And then just, whatever kind of comes up. But my key races this year are, and my favorite race of all races, including Kona, was actually the Hanu 70.3, which is on May 31st. It's sold out now. So there might be charity slots, but I'm not sure. But I won that race last year for the first time. I've done well there in my previous 3 years. In fact, that's where I first qualified in 2010 for Kona. But that's really my first important race. I'll be doing Vineman 70.3 in July. And then, of course, I've already qualified for Kona, so that's October 11th. And then I'll wrap my year up again with Ironman Arizona on November 16th. And if I get lucky along the way, I'll qualify for Kona next year. And that's when I age up to that. And every time you age up, that's when you got the best chance to do well. So I ate to 60, 64 in 2015. So I'm hoping I can qualify this year for next year. We'll see.
Cool. So what is it, the Hanu race? What is it that you like about that? Is it the scenery or?
First of all, I've got an absolute love affair with Hawaii and all the Hawaiian Islands and the people there. I'm going to sound terrible to most people, but I've actually had a chance to go there 3 times last year. next year I'll go at least twice. If my son wants to go back scuba diving, we'll go back for a third time. But I just absolutely love it there. And the venue, it's different than the venue at, for Kona. Kona takes place down at the pier downtown Kona. And this race starts up at Hapuna Bay, which is north about, 30, 40 minutes, something like that. And the bay is just on one of the absolute best beaches anywhere in Hawaii, not just on the Big Island, which doesn't have a lot of great beaches, but it's just a great swim venue. The bike is primarily on the same course as Ironman World Championship course, because you do go up the Queen K and you do go up towards Hawaii. It's just half the distance, of course. And then the run course is a very challenging, very hilly run course that for a portion of the race, you're actually running on the grass on the golf course. So
Yeah.
it's a really challenging run. And if it's windy, it's even more challenging. But that's my favorite race of all the races I've ever done. And I've done, I'm sure, well over 200 triathlons now.
Wow. That's cool. So one other thing that I forgot to ask you when we were talking about training is, do you have any kind of a stretching routine that you do, or do you do that every day or every week, or how does that work?
I always stretch before I run, and I've got a history of shin splints and Achilles issues. So I really focus on those stretches before I run. And then my strength training coach, Roy, has given me some stuff to do at home that really kind of helps too. In the stretching and foam rolling, you can't do enough of it. I wish that I could say that I did it every day, but I don't.
Yeah.
Say, realistically, my strength or my stretching and my foam rolling, I probably do 3 to 4 times a week, but I'm hoping to get more diligent with that.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's, so I feel that like, as I'm getting older, it's just becoming way more important than it's ever been to stretch. I feel like I should do it every day. I don't, but that's kind of the way I feel. And then when I'm out there running and swimming, it's even more important. So that's, that's one thing that I think is, and I know this guy that I swim with, Masters, once in a while, and I think he's about 80, and he's a competitive triathlete and master swimmer. And I just asked him, like, what are you doing to stay in shape? Because he's in phenomenal shape. And he told me he does this whole stretching routine, and that's like his key to keeping going. And so that kind of inspired me to like, okay, that is important for sure.
Yeah. And I've got, I'm surrounded, and this frankly is another key that I failed to mention, is I'm surrounded by, great friends and great athletes. My girlfriend, Camille, she's a great athlete in her own right, and wins practically every race she enters. She's not much of a runner anymore, but she's still doing it. But she's been helping me a lot with my nutrition and encourages the strength and the stretching and the foam rolling. And Ida Wasilewski, she is the queen of stretching and foam rolling. And, they just inspire me to keep that stuff on track. And it's great. It's just great to have, people in your network that can inspire you that way. That's what they really help me with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. And did you have anything else you wanted to add about training or triathlon or anything else?
Well, I've qualified now for Kona 3 times, and, I get asked quite a bit, so how can I qualify for Kona? And, I've given you a couple ideas here, but the one thing is it gets easier to qualify as you get older. It's never easy. I mean, if you're in the 30 to 34 age group, or 35, 39, or even 40 to 44, it is so hard to qualify. I mean, you virtually have to, those guys are just short of being professional level triathletes. As you get older, I think it's easier, but again, it's never easy, but luck plays a big role in it as well. It's all about who shows up on race day. I mean, I finished 18th at Kona. If all 18 of those guys or the other 17 guys showed up for any one of my races, they'd probably beat me, and I never qualified for Kona again.
Yeah. When I think of luck, I think of more like doing a 50 sprint freestyle. It seems like there's all sorts of little tiny things that can go wrong that are completely out of your control. But with Ironman, it's like, I think the luck factor goes way down because there's so many things that you have to do just to finish, let alone, compete. So Well, great. Well, Ron, it's been great having you on. Again, Ron's website is traffica.com. You can find out more about training and different audios and things you can do to help you make it easier for your training. So, yeah, good luck with everything. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Anytime.
Thanks for listening to another episode covering swimming and triathlon mastery. To get your free online swim clinic, just go to tryswimlessons.com. Give us your name and email, and we'll have session number 1 off to you right away. Begin your process of befriending the swim and laughing at the water now.